This is Sacred Pixels, the unity of masculine and feminine. Like Silent Hill and others, there are certain games which are undeniably compelling for reasons which seem to defy what a video game is supposed to be in the first place. Compelling not only because of strong character development, a well-written story, or great gameplay, but compelling in another way. A way which sends a certain faint, unconscious signal to the audience with its atmosphere and level of immersion. Even more than this, however, in some games, there exist certain inescapable archetypes embedded in the very nature of who or what we are. Whether intentional or by some random accident, these universal archetypes keep finding their way into the art and stories which surround our practical reality, as well as our very sense of identity. In this series, we will explore the universal archetypes of masculine and feminine as they've been masterfully presented in some of my favorite video games. While I'm certain there are plenty of other titles from which to draw from, I look for what I believe to be, at least from my reckoning, the most compelling expressions of these archetypal symbols which express so beautifully humankind's search for identity. And I'm sure a lot of you guys will tell me about some other examples, which will be fantastic. I'd love to hear about it. And I'm sure you have your favorites and you know some amazing examples as well. In this series, I will also be exploring the significance of gender, using some of the best examples I can currently, at least what I've currently found, from the world of video games. Specifically, I will offer my perspective on why there seems to be a division between men and women and what can be done about it. Now, before we get started, I want to thank my supporters who are seeing this video first, many months before this is going to be on YouTube. So your support helps me create the kind of meaningful content and sincere exploration of ideas that helps open the door to a better understanding. So thanks so much, guys, for being an important part of the conversation. And thank you so much for your support. If you enjoy my work, please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you're watching this on YouTube. And also, if you want to support my work, please consider subscribing to my members website at reinstallpaul.com, where you can have early access to my work along with the content which appears nowhere else but on my member site. So thanks so much. So symbolism and real significance in stories don't often grab the audience right away. At least, we may not be able to put the deepest levels of meaning into words. At least right then and there, right? It's something we have to kind of contemplate, think about. A great story, whether found in a video game or elsewhere, offers something for the audience to consider, right? There's that whole factor of what's in it for me, right? And if there's nothing in it for the audience, it's going to be a boring game, right? No one's going to want to play it. So great stories don't depend on just haphazard, thrown together references, right? Placed in obvious points along the story. Instead, the references, when used well, are transformed to a point where they've transcended what they were before, providing something completely new on top of it all. This transcendent quality of many elements coming together in a new way invariably works to tell us something about ourselves. So that's coming back to the what's in it for me, right? Significant allegory or symbolism isn't properly conveyed merely by grabbing up a bunch of sacred symbols and throwing them all over the place. There must be a certain intention and understanding associated with archetypal symbols and storytelling elements in order for the good art and timeless questions of humanity to intersect. A lot, I'd say the majority of video games, at least that attempt to have a meaningful story, I'd say the majority of them are asking the questions that are really the eternal questions of humanity. Who are we, right? Where did we come from? What is this existence? What does it all mean? That kind of thing, right? So most game creators share an interest in storytelling and iconography, but only a few manage to really go beyond the outward appearances of the popular narrative and are successful in exploring the ageless questions in a completely new way, right? In a new way we haven't seen before. Bioshock is one of these great examples. It's not an easy thing to do, and it makes for an amazing story. It makes the game so much better when it can come together just right. Now, I should also mention that a game like Bioshock, while not steeped in nearly as much overt symbolism as other games that I've covered, I'm going to explore in this series what I'm going to show the audience is completely different. So the message in Bioshock, I'm actually going to do a video on Bioshock, so I won't give too much away. But the message in Bioshock is more something to be, it's something intuitive, right? Whereas the symbolism in a lot of games, because games are graphical, the symbolism in a lot of games is presented and arranged in a certain way to tell you something. It's not as obvious as just spelling it all out, but it's also not as hidden or covert or intuitive as the way Bioshock makes its statement. So I didn't want anyone to think I was dismissing the importance of Bioshock with the previous slide. In fact, I'm in the planning stages of a Bioshock video series coming up sometime in the future. So now that we've got the introduction out of the way, as well as a little teaser about Bioshock, it's time to explore the realm of masculine and feminine as told through the perspective of video games. So we're going to start with the sun. But before we get into the significance of sun symbolism, we need to backtrack just a little. Now, some may be asking, how do we determine what an archetypal symbol is in the first place? Like, why exactly is it the sun? Why would this be an archetypal symbol, right? What gives these symbols any importance at all? And why are they so highly venerated in the first place? Now, there's a lot of answers to this, and I know that a lot of you guys probably know a lot of these answers, but it's worth exploring this. We want to look at the archetypes like the sun as inescapable, right? Because they're integral to our lives, and they are basically they are the very nature of our existence, right? They're part of everything that comprises existence, and they're a big part, right? The sun's a really big part. So if it is true that in the ultimate sense of human questions, if we don't know who we are in the most extreme and ultimate sense possible, then the best we can do, right, is first and foremost identify ourselves with our surroundings, identify ourselves with nature. And that is one of the foundational reasons why it's significant that the sun should be an archetypal symbol at all. For even if we don't know who we are in the utmost and ultimate sense, and how our reality came to be, either by intelligent design or some random fluke, or maybe some other process that's inconceivable to the human mind altogether, we can at the very least, we can understand that we come from nature. Which is to say that we are products of a natural process. We are the products of this universe and this world that we inhabit. And we're perfectly suited to exist on the planet that we live on. And so, a deeper understanding of ourselves comes directly from the contemplation of the processes of nature. Science, religion, and mysticism are all asking the same questions. At the end of the day, they're all asking the same questions. So they offer different answers, but the questions are the same. From what all of these belief systems that I have studied and gathered up so far, the answers to the eternal questions are to be found in nature, right? Or what gives rise to nature in the first place, the metaphysical part, the unseen, which gives rise to the seen. And what better object to venerate in nature than the sun, an object which makes our lives possible in the first place? We can't help but notice it, right? It helps the plants grow, makes us feel good, gives us vitamin D, right? There's all these amazing things about the sun. It's an object which is both beneficent and dangerous, just like the two sides of humanity. An object which is bright and destroys the darkness, and yet the larger it is, the bigger the shadow it casts. This is a paradoxical sort of thing, right? Just like humans, we are also walking paradoxes. While the sun relates to the masculine archetype of the father, which is encouraging. Now, I'm saying ideally, not all fathers are encouraging, but ideally encouraging, positive, and strong, as well as wrathful. There is something going on with the sun symbolism in Dark Souls, which should raise a few well-groomed eyebrows. That's a little clue there. What I noticed right away about Solaire of Astora and Dark Souls, the first time I played it, is the depiction, of course, of the sun upon his shield and tunic. Right? So you think, well, this guy's part of some kind of some sort of order. And initially, of course, you want to, you're preparing yourself for battle because everything and everyone in Dark Souls is trying to kill you. But then you meet this guy, and something's totally different. Initially, he may appear to be a knight of some certain order, which I suppose he is. However, he also represents clearly the archetypal symbol of the sun. And in his mannerisms, in his the way that he embodies the sun to the player, right? He's very warm and he's very encouraging, right? He's like a father figure. He's like an idealized father figure, right? So there's no doubt in my mind that Solaire of Astora is like the perfect archetype for the masculine energy, right? He idealizes courage and honor. This is that character, right? Solaire of Astora.